Hi, Internet. I'm traveling this week, so you get me backlit by a lovely stained glass window. Um, I needed to do another one of these. It's been a little while since the last one, but I want to not get too far behind, and I think I need to post them too because I'm gonna disincentivize myself from doing that on a long enough timeline. This is not terrifically easy stuff to talk about, but it's useful. And I was reminded by a friend, the friend whose apartment contains this amazing window, actually, the other day that sometimes chronicling a process can be a useful thing to do. This was actually in the context of Derrida. Don't judge us on that. But anyway, so this is chronicling a process, and I don't want to fall out of it because I am getting too hung up in being dissatisfied with where I am now. Dissatisfaction with where I am now is my motivation for going further, and that's an acceptable use for it, but hamstringing me is not. So I wrote a post, kind of a long essay in the meantime, in between the last video and this one, and I got a lot of thinking straightened out, as putting things in words tends to. Um, so I wanted to kind of go over a little bit of that, and also just to expand upon it. I was drawing my usual technical metaphors for brain management, and um, I wound up talking about um, stopping thinking as stopping TSRs, or terminate and stay resident programs, stopping things that have been in the brain for potentially years, but most importantly for longer than they're necessary. Um, Thoughts that just churn around, that come up for no good reason. Um, uh, Contextual habits, conceptual architectures that basically have hung around um, in our minds for however long, but that we don't need. And all they do is they put a drag on our ability to use our minds effectively, and to just be a person, um, without dragging unnecessary crap into the process of just being a person. So I differentiated between what I've often called a psychology, which is kind of the set of old programming, um, and personality in the ego sense. Um, Oops, excuse me. And obviously, I don't have a very permanent setup today. And so I differentiated between a psychology and what I call a window, which is sort of my analogy to a window manager. This is a good post to introduce a window. Um, and the differentiation is really one is all of these old programs. One is things that don't bear on right now. Whatever they are thinking that is not thinking right now. Is not thinking about something right now. It's not deliberate thinking. It's just voices in the back of your head. And it is both the cause and mechanism of things like self-esteem problems and anxiety and depression and all of the kinds of thinking that we identify as, wow, that's not useful. It's not good. Um, because it's not necessary. Sitting right here at this table, I don't need to think about whether I'm nervous about something later. It doesn't help. All of the scenarios, and a lot of this thinking is just imaginary stuff. It's either remembering or pulling a memory trace from the past, which may or may not be an accurate representation of something in the past, or worrying about something in the future that hasn't happened, and the chances that it will happen exactly that way are almost nil. Um, so that's a psychology versus the window program, which is actually the thinking that surrounds um, actual sensory input that's coming in right now, the state of your body, the state of your mind, noticing, wow, I'm nervous right now, or I'm tense right now, or all of the things that I smell and hear and see and sense and feel, or how I'm interacting with other people, or what I notice about them. That's actual real-time data. And my goal in this can be can be stated. One way to state it, maybe not the most comprehensive way, but a useful way anyway for me to state it, is that my goal is to prioritize that the window functionality and to minimize the amount of CPU being used on the psychology functionality. So because I already wrote a bunch of that down, and I probably wrote it much better than I said it, I will skip over babbling about it anymore and babble instead about the how, because that was a very good question that I got in response to the essay, and obviously a very good question in general. You know, when you sense that these programs are running, how do you stop them? And it's not obvious how you would. It sounds obvious maybe until you try it. You know, until you go, oh, hey, I'm thinking about this. Okay, I'm going to stop. You know, what are you going to do? You can distract yourself with other thoughts, or you can go do something that distracts yourself. And by the way, since a lot of the psychology stuff is painful by virtue of being old or broken or you know, even just inefficient, it's not pleasant to undergo. So people do a lot of deliberate distraction, including me, to avoid having to deal with it. In some cases, we get amazingly good at modifying our activities and our thinking in order to drown out the really unpleasant stuff in our heads. Those of us with traumatic or really icky stuff in the distant past or the recent past, or tendencies to worry or very good imaginations that help us think of really icky shit in the potential future, I think know this very well. All kinds of addictions and time wasters and behavior that's just doesn't make any sense in a lot of ways, except as, oh my God, shut that off. You know, it's painful to sit and listen to that or to think that or to identify with it or to be it. So what do? There actually has to be a mechanism, because just trying to distract yourself, just trying to think something else is literally fighting the darkness. It's, you know, you're just taking one thing of the same type and throwing it in the same arena. Maybe a better way of saying it is it's like having a really annoying loud thing on the television. And the way that you address it is to crank the radio up really loud, or to try and do something else even louder, or throw on another television to go over that one. That's not really a solution. What you really want is to stop that. You want to shut that television off. I say things like fighting the darkness because there's a quote that I've always liked: don't fight the darkness, bring the light. Why would you be sword fighting against demons that can be destroyed by flipping a light switch? Flipping a light switch is a hell of a lot easier than waging a battle with a sword. And it's really the exact kind of answer you're looking for with this. I think it was Einstein that said problems that were created in a certain level of mind can now be solved from within that same level of mind. However good I am or become at mental sword fighting, at going after my demons, at turning on different televisions that are louder than the one that is causing me pain, at distracting myself, at thinking differently, I'm not going to get better at it than my own subconscious, because the better I get at it, the better I'm making my enemy at it. And this is a classic statement of a problem that, you know, humanity has always faced. If you make your conscious mind better, you are also making your subconscious mind better. You cannot fix the problems that are taking place in your subconscious by just flicking on, you know, this magic conscience. Like, it's the same brain. It's the same level of mind, is the better way of saying it, as the problem. So how do you get over to the light switch? How do you get to a different level of mind where you go, oh, look, there's a shadow demon with a sword, flick, and now it's gone. And that actually is possible, and that's what I've been working on. And so I'm going to talk about the first and most useful. I'm not going to say not chronologically first, with primacy in my current method here. The first and most useful thing that I've been doing now is I have been learning to switch my focus from the psychology to the window, from the thoughts to the non-thinking, the stuff that is actually not thought. It is sense perception, it is awareness. And by the way, I do not like Descartes. Don't tell me Descartes. Thinking and awareness are not the same thing. You can absolutely be aware and awake and alive and not thinking, especially not verbally thinking. So I get really irritated at Descartes as a philosopher. And that's a lot of what this is. You're finding a way to focus on your consciousness and focus on your being alive instead of focusing on your thoughts. And by doing that, you take the fuel away from your thoughts. You take the energy that's being spent on them away. And in doing that, they slow down and eventually they stop. This is a difficult mental exercise to do, and it's also difficult to sustain it for long enough that the thoughts all actually stop. I've gotten there a couple times. Actually, I'm getting there on average once a day to full stop. But even without full stop, refocusing and getting to a point where you're not feeding those thoughts and having them slow down and just having them stop having that constant, they get this fuely flywheel kind of thing. And I think a lot of people, I probably don't have to explain that to most people, but getting to the point where that is depowered and even coasts for a bit is really freeing. When anxiety or worries or other kinds of bad thoughts are on you, and you're able to just let them coast, and they slow down and they kind of release their grip a little bit. Even if it comes back, even if you can't hold it, even if you can't do it long enough that they actually completely go away, it's still really useful. And when they do completely go away, it's way more than useful. And I'm not going to address that yet because I don't feel like I have enough experience of it to really say useful things. So let me spend a little bit, because I only have a little bit left, on how exactly, what is that refocusing? And here's what it is. Our source of attention, our consciousness, our awareness is typically perceived as right behind the eyes, right in the middle of the head, looking out, and all of the thoughts are in here with you. And you can, and visually speaking, a lot of people will absolutely experience exactly this. If you're a visual person and you think about what's it like right now here, you see yourself as being kind of control room situated, and all the thoughts are here, and the concept of trying to get them all to stop or go away is like swinging a broom at a room full of bats. It doesn't feel possible. However, there's no rule that this is where the consciousness needs to be, and the consciousness being here is very much a function of all the psychology programs running. That is where literally most of your CPU is now taken up with all of these programs that are running. So we take the CPU power, which you have control of, away from there, and you move it to where the window programs are. You literally switch focus like you would switch focus on a computer program. And the window programs are, while of course the brain has a lot to do with it, the window programs have a lot more to do with the body. So you can take that focus and you can push it down. And I find that one of the easiest ways to make that start to happen, at least, is to take a few deep breaths and feel how the air fills up your body and kind of feel the way your body moves in response to breathing. Now, I have a strong physical connection with breathing, meaning that I do breath hold exercises, and I have a long history of meditating, and so breathing is kind of an immediate anchor for me. There might be some other feeling or some other part of your body that's a better physical anchor for you, but by taking that focus from just kind of being up here where it always is in your head and your thoughts flying around to down into your body, and really, instead of thinking about it, because if you're thinking about it, you're just creating more thoughts like this that have to do with this. Instead of thinking about it, you're just feeling it. And there's a lot to feel. Your body is a lot. And if you're used to just having this be your focus, spreading that out into your body, there's plenty there. You are not going to run out of data. And all of the input through your skin, through your muscles, through your senses, through not just the outside of your body, but the inside of your body. I mean, the inside of your body feels like things. You sense things through it. You can sense tension in your muscles. You can sense electricity in your skin. You can feel a lot. There are, I think, probably not very many words for a lot of the things you can feel because they're not what we spend most of our time on. But when you do that, all of these things that are, you're taking CPU away from them. You're putting the CPU in the window and you're saying, I'm paying more attention to this. I always make noise about how attention is primary, and this is where my focus is. This is where, and something that I'm trying to get the hang of right now is rather than just doing that as a meditation, which I've done for a long time, and it makes a great meditation. It's very stress relieving, it's very centering, etc. But rather than just doing that as a meditation, I'm trying to get the hang of doing it all the time as a method of being conscious, just walking around while I'm walking, while I'm eating, while I'm talking to people. And it's really hard. It takes attention and it takes focus. Funnily enough, it's not distracting. It doesn't make you stupid. It doesn't reduce your ability to do things. It does change the way, like it changes, where your responses are coming from in a lot of cases. Like instead of, you'd be surprised if you haven't already been, how much of your response to things like something happening or someone talking to you comes from the content of these programs. They're doing their thing, they're in your head, and someone talks to you and you talk, and most of the time we don't stop and carefully consider exactly what we say. You're responding, but your responses are colored by what is going on in your head. When your focus is here, that's what your responses are colored by. It feels different. But it also feels very genuine, and it feels, when you can kind of let go and just do it, pretty effortless. And I've so far been very happy with the quality of the things that come out of my mouth, as you know, when I do have at least part of my attention here. Anyway, I've gone on longer than I wanted to already. I'll talk more about it later, but hopefully that answers kind of the first part of the basic question of one of the hows. And there are several other hows, and there's also a whole bunch of stuff I want to talk about related to architecture and poetry. And yeah, there's a lot to this. So anyway, that was video 3. I hope you enjoyed the lovely window, and have a great one.